Hey everyone, it's Felicia here, the producer of the Meet Me at the Deli podcast. Just a quick note to say that this episode was recorded before Passover. So Liz and Jeffrey aren't going to talk about how their Seders went. They caught up with each other after the episode was filmed and of course had you all on their hearts and minds at their Seder table. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Meet Me at the Deli, a food advice podcast where the pickles and slaw are always free. I'm Liz.
And I'm Jeffrey. Every episode, we're answering your burning food and culinary questions, and we're sharing our stories and insights from years working in the industry and living in our self-made shtetl.
I wanted to tell you about a cooking fail I had. And, you know, it's like I know what I did wrong, but what's funny is, you know, when you preach something, right, and then you do this thing that you preach again, it's like, so I wanted to share it with you because it's the kind of thing I share with you. You know, it might be relevant to the people listening as well. So you might recall that at the end of February, you and I had an event scheduled, and one of the dishes we were going to make for this event was tzimmus. Mm-hmm. This is a classic Eastern European sort of stewy thing. It could be made with meat. It's traditionally made with carrots, and it's a little bit sweetened. It's a Rosh Hashanah dish, but it can be made so many different ways. So you and I have developed a recipe for a tzimmus that's a roasted vegetables. So it doesn't just have carrots, it's also sweet potatoes.
Mm-hmm. And didn't you get like a ton of sweet potatoes?
Exactly. The night before the event, you know, I was going to cook in the morning, we found out it was going to be that blizzard. Mm-hmm. And there was that crazy blizzard, like a truly epically crazy blizzard. So we postponed the event, and I still had all of these sweet potatoes and carrots, like epic amounts. And instead of sort of like thinking more practically, I was like, I'm just going to chip away. You know, I'm going to chip away at these. So I'm doing so many things. I'm making mashed potatoes with the sweet potatoes. I'm roasting them. Yeah, I think I made a couple soups that included them. And I still have these sweet potatoes, you know, like weeks later. And I'm sort of like, man. So we had this idea to make sweet potato latkes and do a breakfast for dinner. And, you know, full disclosure, you probably know that I don't even like sweet potato latkes, but it was like at this, like it's such a low level latke for me of all the latkes. But here I am trying to use these, you know, sweet potatoes. So I go and I shred it all by hand. I thought you'd like that. And make this batter, totally working. And I go to fry them and they are not sticking together. They're not working. And I know that what was happening is that I wasn't using enough oil. And I also know that I didn't have any binding that was really good in my house. Yeah. I had like very crappy breadcrumbs that I didn't want to use and no flour at all. And there's not a lot of starch in sweet potatoes. There was so much going on, and I knew exactly what I was doing, and I saw myself just failing. It was almost like I couldn't stop. You know, I was like, I don't even want these fucking sweet potato latkes. I just want these sweet potatoes out of my house. So what we did in the end is we made a sheet pan latke. Okay. You know, like put it all out.
I think that's called a kugel?
Sure. I don't know if it had enough egg to be a kugel, but you're right. You're not wrong. Yeah. But, you know, I took the olive oil, heated it in my sheet pan, laid all the stuff in, got a little more crispiness. It was good, but I guess what I'm telling you the story because I felt embarrassed for myself.
It is embarrassing.
You know?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, you should know how to make a good latke.
I'm extremely experienced in this department.
Liz, when was this? Was this yesterday?
It was 2 days ago. Okay,
because coincidentally, we were far from Hanukkah. I spent last night making a shit ton of latkes. I had a scare though, because I stopped measuring with latkes. I just do it all by feel. And then I pulsed some of the potatoes. I did mostly shred, and I made enough that I used a processor, which I don't always use. Yeah. And the texture was just a little bit off, and I was putting in the potato starch, and I was making them gluten-free too, so no breadcrumbs, no other cheat things. I was worried it was a little bit looser than I wanted. I just shredded some more potato, and it solved itself.
I bow to you, latke master.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, I wanted to share with you, I got a text message not long before we came here that was one of the sweetest things that I've ever seen. And I, as a pickle maker, it warmed my heart. This photo from a friend.
We've got a kid, shaggy haired, maybe he's 9. He's very cute. He's got all these jars of pickles in front of him, and it looks like he is using a pH test strip. That's what I'm looking at. It's very cute.
So this kid, I think 7 or 8 years old, he chose for his science fair project to make pickles, lacto-fermented saltwater pickles, classic New York pickles, and he wanted to test the pH levels of them and determine which salt ratio gets to the proper acidic level that he's looking for to get a nice sour pickle faster. And so he was measuring and rating these. And so I actually got, right beforehand, I got this.
So sweet.
I got this poster of his science fair.
Oh, it's like the poster board with the 3 parts. It's standing up. It's half sour, lacto fermentation. There's a chart. There's a line graph.
Look at this. Read the question.
How does the amount of salt affect microbial activity in lactic acid fermentation? Damn.
So
Science fair. I hope he won the science fair. Do people still win the science fair?
I don't know if it's a competition, but
It used to be.
I was proud of this kid that I've come to know and love and appreciate, but also was proud of the dad because you know what? Like, you get your kids in on your interests like this. There's a lot of questions in life and all that. Like, I got this. Seeing this, I'm like, I get it. I get why having kids is awesome. Like,
yeah.
You know, if you're a pickler, you get your kid to do a whole pH experiment, your science fair.
Ugh.
So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought you would appreciate this.
It totally warms my heart, and it feels aspirational. Like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, well,
when my kid gets old enough.
Well, I want to see your kid making some
she
pickles
might.
for science.
She just might.
Okay, Liz, I think we should get into questions.
Let's do it. We have some really good ones today, and we have our first guest.
We do. We have a question that we really needed. We needed some insight to help us get some answers. And so we want to introduce our special guest, Chef Aaron Israel.
From Shalom Japan, one of our favorite restaurants in Brooklyn and the world, I dare say. Come on in, Aaron. Welcome.
Aaron, welcome.
Welcome to Meet Me at the Deli. Welcome to our deli booth. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to say, when you reached out and you said, you invited me, I thought, this is so exciting. It's probably more exciting than if someone had asked me to meet the Pope.
Yeah. What do you have to say to the Pope? You know what I mean? Like, this is who you really are.
And first off, Shalom Japan. Also, you opened a couple of years ago at the end of 2024, Tokidoki right next door. Quickly, just tell us a bit about where were you and what caused you to open this restaurant? And maybe you can tell us just a bit about it.
I had been working before. I worked at Teresi Italian Specialties, and they were really, really into this idea of Italian food and their own exploration of it. And it really got me thinking a lot about exploring Jewish food. And so I reached this point where I was like, I really want to open up a place and make it about Jewish food. But I met along the way my wife, and she's from Japan, and we started dating, and we started talking about each other's cultures, and we started really connecting with each other through food. We kind of reached this point in our relationship when we're like, you're a chef, I'm a chef. We cook together all the time, and if we're gonna open up, if I'm gonna open up a restaurant and she's not gonna be a part of it, we're never gonna see each other. So we were like, We're either gonna do this together and see way too much of each other, or maybe not really see each other that much. So we're like, well, let's do this together. And then that's sort of what we started thinking about, what would this restaurant look like? And so it was still about this idea of Jewish food, but then also more like an exploration of these two people who are figuring out their cultures together.
I really appreciate that it's, you chose the name Shalom Japan because that was just some a cheesy kosher Japanese. Wasn't that
So, well, we had, it was like an inside joke to us. We were sitting in the Brooklyn Library, and she was doing some research, I was doing some research, and I found this guidebook to the Lower East Side, to where we are now, from 1983, and it was written by Oscar Israelowitz. Really cool. It was this walking tour of the Lower East Side from 1983, exploring all these Jewish sites. But I did the tour. And at the time, Shalom Japan was there, and we were reading, it was giving food recommendations. And I showed Sal, I was like, there was a place on the Lower East Side called Shalom Japan in 1983. And she looked at it, and she just laughed so hard. We laughed, and we're like, if we ever open a restaurant, we're going to call it Shalom Japan.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard that story. It's such a good story, and it does feel good to be on the Lower East Side, just talking about all of this, I would say. And even though Jeffrey and I don't do we don't do Jewish Japanese food, we always feel a spiritual alignment with the thoughtfulness of Shalom Japan, because there's something so real about it. Like, the food is so realized, and of course you're well known for your matzo ball ramen. And maybe we should get into the question, because there's more to say.
I tried your matzo ball recipe for the first time in a few years. The first time it went so well. This time, all seemed to go fine until I shaped the balls and put them in the water. Some of the balls held together, but about a third of them came apart rather quickly. It was so disappointing to see the matzo ball crumble in the liquid. Luckily, I didn't cook the balls in the soup. Something similar happened with a different recipe as well, but only some of the matzo balls came apart. Where did I go wrong? From Sophia in Cincinnati.
This is a good one. I think we're really glad you're here.
I'm so
Dive
excited.
in, chef.
Wait.
Yeah.
We should. One of the reasons why we wanted to bring him here.
Oh, yes. Okay. Right.
is not long ago, we had a conversation about matzo balls, and I think you encountered something similar to this, and I have encountered something. And Liz, have you ever encountered this?
Oh, I've encountered this.
Okay, so, and I know that you were thinking very clearly about how to resolve this, because you make a lot of matzo balls.
Like,
and
a lot.
Before we get into this answer, why don't you talk to us about your version of this problem, and then maybe we can get to some of the solutions.
Yeah, sure. So we opened in 2013, and I would say somewhere along the lines of 120,000 matzo balls I've personally been involved in.
Wow.
Not that I've rolled them all, but I've been there for that.
Touched them. You've
touched the
whispered
balls.
to them.
Yeah.
What do you think? Did you roll about 30,000 or something, or what do you?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Easily, yeah.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
I kind of, when I reached out to you, I was sort of having a mini internal meltdown, because we're about 13 years into this thing, and I'm like, why are we still fucking these up? Sorry for the language, but or why are they not coming out, right?
Yeah.
I think that cooking on a lot of levels, can be broken down why are you succeeding and why are you failing? What are the variables? How do you control them? And kind of understanding them. So, like in a pickle, my pickles didn't come out right. Did you weigh the salt? Did you weigh the right? And we've been making these things for so long. And
You've explored the variables.
we've explored the variables, and they are so maddeningly inconsistent sometimes. And it just makes you want to hit your head against the wall. I kind of just reached this point where I was like, we have to figure this out. We have to figure out why this recipe that we know works is not working, not working right. So we really did a pretty deep dive. The problem that we were having was that a lot of the balls were just not expanding. They were staying.
You were too tight.
They were staying really hard. And again, there's a lot of different variables for this. Did the person who made the recipe, did they weigh them? Did they weigh everything out right? Are the eggs weighed? Because eggs are different sizes. So maybe you were using a large egg, and now all of a sudden you've got the extra large eggs. So we try to look at really every variable in it.
And you're scaling. I mean, when you're at home making this, you're not a difference between a large and extra large egg. It's not so big. But when you're doing this, 20 times, 30 times a normal recipe?
Yeah. When we're
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So when we're doing it, we're doing usually about 60 to 80 matzo balls at a time.
Mm-hmm.
For various reasons. That's about what we've settled on. But we started doing bigger batches, and that's when we were having more problems. So we were doing everything the same, and then they're staying really small. Well, the recipe's the same. We're weighing everything the same. So I was really having an internal crisis, Jeffrey.
To get a call from a chef that I respect, from one of my favorite restaurants, to call to say, hey, can we talk through what's going on with my matzo ball? This was one of my highlights. I'm like, this is why I live, is for this kind of conversation. And I have had
He
this
told me
moment.
about it right away.
I was first off blown away that you were having that issue all these years later. I actually remember testing your recipe for your cookbook and thinking, oh wow, his matzo ball, it's like really consistent. I was like, it's like actually like, I remember being like, wow, like it's a different matzo ball approach than we take, I would say. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, but this like worked. So I'm so curious. Liz, just very quickly,
I've got a lot of thoughts. I think, for me, I'm just going to start diving into this, which is that because we really love to crush our own matzah, I've definitely found that the texture of the matzah is a huge piece of this. So, like I have attempted to make a more rustic matzo ball, which is in fact, I believe in our cookbook, what we call it, rustic matzo balls, because we like to see the texture. But I have found in general that if I do not go fine enough with grinding my handmade matzah, it will fall apart. It will not get the right texture. So what we like to do always is mix the ground matzah with some matzah meal, because matzah meal on its own almost feels too smooth. There's not enough texture. I like a little bit of texture. So that's where I've always seen the issue, and that's usually where I can catch it. I'm like, I look at it and I go, that is not going to stick together. Grind it some more. Yeah, let's hear where did we land on the too tight balls versus these falling apart ones in Shalom Japan world.
So also, and this is also part of we've had matzo balls just explode as well. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know why.
At what
that
point?
part, but that is a much less common occurrence. Like it'll be very occasionally, and I think maybe just my prep guy is like asleep at the wheel and like doubles up the amount of baking powder.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that.
Eric, did you put the right amount of baking powder? He's like, definitely. And I'm like, and you don't know, right? I mean, because you can't go back, and then so I'll just preface with occasionally we do get an exploding batch of matzo balls that were just like, you put them in and then you open the lid and you look at it like 5 minutes later and they're like, and you're like, why are they that big already?
But we don't know if this question, Sophia's matzo balls, if they exploded or not. We just know that
they fell apart.
They fell
apart.
Yeah.
I guess for me, when I think falling apart, I think it oversaturates and it just starts to disintegrate. For me, when I think about how we do it, for a little thing, there's so many maddeningly minute variables in it. So the things that we consider as like egg size, also how we mix it, because I found that if you're not like homogeneous with the way that you mix it, so we always mix the fat in first with the dry, and then we add the egg in. But we mix the eggs really well before we add them in, so we don't get like clusters of like.
Right, you can sometimes get a little like egg white cluster.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be good. That's going to help. It's going to fall apart. It could fall apart. It could explode. It could be Okay, so we start with that. We were pretty confident that we were getting a pretty consistent route on that.
Schmaltz or no schmaltz on this?
We've done both. We were using canola oil. We have used duck fat. We've switched because we also do a vegetarian version, and so we kind of cook the balls the same. So we don't want to you can't tell them apart.
No.
Once you have and our broth has a pretty good amount of chicken fat in it. So there's that. We also started weighing the actual end result of the batch. So to see
the batch itself.
Yeah, so weigh all the ingredients and then actually to see where it landed after we weighed everything. And weirdly enough, they all weighed slightly different, even though we weighed everything perfectly before. So I can't explain that.
It's too much.
All right. And then you have to get into your rolling technique, right? Because we have a restaurant, we have different people that are sometimes touching it. So then who's rolling it? Is it person A? Is it person B? How is that person's technique? Are they squeezing it too hard? Are they a little loose? So I would definitely say that if it's rolled a little bit loose, that could also lead to it falling apart. But if you roll it too tight, you also can restrict it from expanding.
Are there any culprits? Is there like clearly a loose roller and a tight roller?
Yeah, I mean, there have been some people like me and like our chef Matt will be like, yeah, no, I don't think they should roll them off anymore. Like they're not coming out good. We'll kind of like ban them from rolling them for a little bit to be like, the touch isn't right, you know. And there's some people who have a really good feel for them, and we're like, you know. I think also, and I don't know if this is as much of a factor for people who are doing this at home, but for us, when we're doing it in a large batch, it's really about keeping the matzo ball from getting a skin at all. So like when we roll them, you know, we're rolling them, and then maybe you're rolling 60. So if you roll the first 20, and then you get distracted because like, you know, you got to take care of something else or whatever, right? It sits a little too long. You know, you get the skin. I think the skin can affect. So we try to keep it nice and
because it gets dried out.
Gets dried
out. Yeah.
I think that can affect how well it expands. So we tried to control that a little more too by just spraying them down really well with some Pam spray. So they stay nice and moist on the outside. But that still honestly didn't fix the problem. So we also considered...
This is a great advertisement for Shalom Japan.
We also considered the moisture level of the matzo meal. Like maybe depending on the time of the year...
Where it's stored.
Maybe we need to toast the matzo meal. Maybe it's a little too moist. Maybe, you know, that had like random effects on it as well, which was telling us that like clearly this was not the solution
well, and also,
we were looking for.
Matzah factories, they start making matzah 6 months or longer in advance, and so how fresh is your matzah? Are you getting the old? You know, sometimes it can be a year or two old. Like how old is your matzah? Which you know might be more dried out and harder to. It might be harder for it to absorb the liquid. You know, that's also a consideration.
Yeah, it didn't solve the problem though.
Okay.
I wanted it to. I was like, oh, maybe it did. So, you know, I think really what it came down to is that we had started making larger batches of matzo balls by about 50% more. And we always knew that the way that we cook it would kind of have an effect on how the matzo ball kind of comes out. But we started really diving into that. And there's a real thing about how much water or liquid, and we use stock. We use like a vegetable stock with some kombu and, you know, how much liquid you have that you're cooking the matzo balls in. There's a ratio that if you have too many matzo balls in there, they don't expand. It doesn't really have to do with them not having the room to grow, because they have plenty of room to grow. There's plenty of liquid. Where we kind of landed was that you need the stock to be circulating enough, boiling hard enough to actually move the matzo balls and circulate them. So if you put too many matzo balls in the stock, and they're kind of like it will still be boiling hard, but if they're not actually like kind of tumbling appropriately with the movement of the stock.
Yep.
Then one side will get stuck next to the other, and that side won't expand right. And so we were getting maybe like losing as much as like 30 to 40% of these batches when we were doing too much. And when we started doing like 50, we cut the amount that we were cooking in half. And we would cook half and then cook the other half. So just the ratio of like matzo balls to stock adjusted, and then they were coming out. And it worked.
Wow.
Well,
that was a lot about matzo balls, everybody.
Yeah.
We did great. I hope, Sophia, that we answered your question. I think we should. We should
definitely move on.
We should move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will say, I feel inspired to know that even a restaurant that's best known for a matzo ball soup, a matzo ball ramen soup, even that restaurant, even the chefs that are behind it, even struggle with something like a matzo ball. So.
Yeah. If you're struggling with your matzo balls, you're not alone.
Okay, Aaron, can you stick around? We got a couple more questions. That would be
I
good to get
think
your insights.
the other questions are going to be fun for you too.
Great. I would love.
Okay. All right.
Let's do it.
This next question is from Anna in Atlanta. What is the strongest, most pungent thing you ever fermented?
The thing that I have, it might be one you're thinking about, because when we were together, we first went to Poland, and we went and met the mad pickler, Alexander Barona, chef in Poland, and he took us to his restaurant, and he has just had, this was Solec 44, it's closed, but he just had jars of all these fermented things.
In Warsaw.
And we looked at one, all along the wall. We looked at one and we said, "What is that?" It looked like an alien in this giant like a 1 gallon jar, basically. And he takes it out, and he said, "Oh, this is a parsley root that I put in about 2 years ago. Let's try it." And I just remember him opening this jar. And I just remember expecting the smell to come, and I didn't smell anything, and then suddenly it just hit me like that was like rotting cheese. Like it's what I imagine hakarl, that Icelandic smoke fermented shark, to smell like, or it reminded me of being in Sweden, that sour herring, the Sorströmming, and it was just so intense. I almost had a physical reaction. And then he takes this out, and he had the root with all of the parsley leaves fermenting for 2 years, pulls it out in a lacto ferment, and then he takes out a board, and he cuts a piece of this and gives it to us to taste.
Slices it all delicate,
Yeah, and this was like in the middle of service, and we were just doing this on the side. It was it was a wild thing. And then he serves it to us, and it was like eating cheese. It was it tasted like
it was like cheese.
The texture was a little. It still had some crunch to it. And then I remember both of us went back and we're like,
we gotta do it.
We gotta do
it.
And so it's hard to find a parsley root with everything intact, because you think celery root, that's easy. Parsley root is harder to come by. And I think you got me one.
I got them in Hasidic Williamsburg.
And then I made my own version. I had it I think I had it go fermenting for 9 months, and then I had it in the fridge, and it just kept on going a little bit in the fridge every so often. And so I got to give people that same pungent experience when they would come over, and it was for me it was a pretty exciting.
It was dank.
It was dank.
Yeah. It might have been on that same trip to Poland where we saw entire heads of cabbage being fermented, or maybe we just saw images of it somewhere, and we were like, we need to ferment an entire head of cabbage and see what happens. Just a whole head, but obviously it's going to take an extremely long time. So I want to tell you that I still have an entire, I think I fermented it for about 6 months or something, and it's in the fridge still to this day, and I at some point was clearing out the fridge and was like, I'm going to get rid of this. And I just I couldn't do it. I was like, I need to eat a 3-year fermented cabbage. So I think maybe next time we record this podcast, I'll bring you some of that cabbage. It's not actually that pungent. It's much more mellow than you'd think. I just used some juniper berries in the brine, so it's a very simple brine. Juniper berries, some peppercorn, some salt, but the experience of an entire head of cabbage in a jar in and of itself is quite pungent.
I would definitely say my friend's homebrew of fish sauce,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he was doing it on the deck, so I didn't really get the full, we weren't in an enclosed space, which probably
homemade fish sauce is legit.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty pungent. That was pretty
Nice.
It came out great though. I mean he gave me some later. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, good question. Good little question. All right, we now have a more thoughtful question.
It's more thoughtful, but I want to challenge you to rapid fire it and make it as succinct and concise as you possibly
can. Okay, we got it. We got
get to the high level.
Okay.
What does the future of Jewish delis look like to you? From Jason in New Jersey.
I'll say something quickly.
Okay.
I'll do it. It's something that we talk a lot about, so it's good. I'll steal your thunder.
Before you do that, I think it's worth noting that we will probably be exploring this topic.
Yeah.
A lot.
I think that's right. I think we wanted to answer this question because it struck a chord with us, but I hope we'll answer it in many ways, in many formats over time. Okay, so the future of Jewish deli. So what we already have seen with Jewish deli is that there's a combining of Jewish institutions, of Jewish type places into one. So the deli used to be the meat place, and the dairy restaurant was the dairy place, and the appetizing shop was like the fish bagel-y kind of place, and then the bagel shop is where you got the bagels. And then, if you were lucky, maybe you went to like the cafeterias, right, that were, in New York, and you could go get some like blintzes and stuff in this like hot bar. So there used to be all of these different type of Jewish institutional restaurants. And what we've seen in the modern era is that the Jewish deli has sort of brought it all together, right? It's less important to separate the milk from the meat from the whatever. And the other trend that we've seen is way smaller menus, just smaller menus. So we're bringing together more items, and there's just like less on the menu in general. Those are the biggest things. So when I think about the future of the Jewish deli, what I think about is the boutique experience of it all, right? Like I think about less of a deli and more of a restaurant that has a Jewish-ish menu where people can feel connected to Jewish tradition, but maybe it's not just Ashkenazi tradition. It's probably not kosher, or even kosher style necessarily. Maybe it's, it's all the genres in one, but it's a boutique kind of more curated experience. And the thing that I don't love as much is that maybe it feels also a little bit higher end, whereas I think of the deli as something that's a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, well, I would say, this is a difficult one because if we talked 5 years ago when the trend of vegan delis was starting,
right, sure.
Maybe we would say, oh, vegan delis are the trend, and many vegan delis are still around,
yeah.
And I think back in 2010 that Maya Land opened in Brooklyn, and they opened a Montreal style deli, and in San Francisco, Wise Sons opened their deli, and what all of them have in common, and it's something you spoke to, Liz, is these young people wanting to express their identity, express their Jewishness, maybe their deliness, their Yiddishness in a way, and they're looking for a format. And I would dare say that you are doing that too. What I like, and you touched on this, Liz, is the third space of it all. A lot of people say the delis where all these immigrant Jews came to America, and that's where they Americanized. In this place, in a secular synagogue. And so I actually think that there is a food element to it, and there's these creators and these chefs that are making these dishes or spins on these dishes, and whether it's a deli or a restaurant or a bistro, all these different concepts, but they're all just trying to create a space that brings people together. Aaron, what do you think?
It's a great question. If I had a crystal ball, I would probably not have a 40-seat restaurant. But I would say, when I think of like Jewish delis, I think of this sort of like consolidation of Jews from all over the globe, like kind of like funneling through the Lower East Side, close to where we are now. It's sort of this sort of melding of, a little bit of German and a little Polish and Russian, and like kind of spitting it out in this like very unique New York thing that got like kind of transferred to other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. But the way people eat now is so different from like when my parents were growing up in New York. And I think I don't know where it's going, but I feel like it's more like a re-globalizing of like Jewish food, whereas like that time was bringing all this food from all over the world together into these like mishmashed communities that like figured out how to survive down here. And now that sort of time has passed, and so it's these other people who are thinking about, okay, there's like these flavors and this nostalgia of that, and then what are you incorporating from all these other cultures that you're experiencing? New York is such a unique melting pot of like all these different cultures, and how could you not be like influenced by them? And so sort of reintroducing other flavors from outside.
You get Italian rainbow cookies at the deli. You get Nova Lux, which was a Scandinavian inspired Canadian smoked a product that gets put onto bagels. Like all the ways that I'll tell you what the future of the New York deli is not. Is that like a New York deli somewhere in Phoenix that just has like a New York skyline and is like recreating an idea of the New York deli from the 1950s. Like that is not the future of it.
Although I would go there real fast right now.
We made it, Liz. We're sliding into the vinyl seats at the deli, so each of us get the chance to kvel or kvetch about food we've been thinking about, or about ideas that maybe you want to share.
All right, let's keep it short. We got to set a timer because we always talk too long. All right. I'm going to go first. It's short. It's pretty short, mine. So I wanted to bring something that was really cool that I discovered today that just felt relevant. So I met someone today that makes this conversation card deck about food stories. Her name is Abigail Houston. Maybe it's Houston. I did meet her today. I did not ask her how to pronounce her last name. It's really cool. So I just thought, really quickly, you open up this cute little deck of cards, really beautiful box. Everybody just pick a card. Pick a card. Pick whatever card. Okay, Aaron, why don't you read your card first?
It says, how does dining alone make you feel?
Rapid fire.
And no, there's another part to it, though.
Oh.
It also says, sorry. It says, describe a memorable solo dining experience. Well, I would say dining alone for me now feels really different from maybe before, because like I have, 2 kids and a family.
Yeah.
And
What a treat, dining alone.
Now it's like
Sign me up.
it feels like a
dream.
It's very quiet in a good way.
Okay. What dish always leaves you gladly overstuffed? I think it's mac and cheese.
Oh.
And like I have this you don't know this all this time. There was like
I've never eaten mac and cheese with you in 15 years.
I love mac and cheese. It's just
I had no
it
idea.
speaks
I really
to this
didn't know that.
child in me. And there's a few foods I literally do not have an off switch with. And mac and cheese is one of them. Applesauce is another. I can just drink applesauce. Rice pudding is the third. I cannot stop. And to the point that I literally have to put smaller amounts in bowls. But mac and cheese is, even if you go to a potluck or something and mac and cheese is on offer, I keep going back.
Yeah, mac and cheese.
I keep going back, and especially when there's a trend of elevated mac and cheeses a number of years ago, and everyone
Truffle oil.
I didn't love the truffle oil trend, but just there was people were making bechamel. I don't know. It was to elevating this whole experience, and people at home were 4 or 5 types of cheeses. I loved it, but I would go to someone's house and overstuff.
Crush that mac and cheese.
Yeah. So that's mine.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for participating in this food stories activity. This was fun. I truly stumbled on these, and I thought, how funny that I'm literally on my way to answer questions about food.
Oh, amazing. Well, okay. Okay, so for mine, I decided to come with a kvetch.
Okay, what's going on?
Well, I was thinking about this matzo ball question. I was thinking about matzo balls, and I happened to have seen on social media a little bit ago, there was this Guinness Book of World Records. A social media influencer made the world's largest matzo ball soup. He was working with an AI company to scale the recipe, and there was a promotion.
Whoa!
And then it made a giant vat of soup, and to the credit, the soup was eventually portioned out and delivered and given away to a soup kitchen or something.
Okay.
But it was just the gimmick of this. I don't know if you remember, Liz, but years ago when we were starting off and someone connected us with a PR company and they're like, make the world's largest gefilte fish. And we were just
I remember.
No,
Yeah.
that's just cheesy.
Literally, why?
Why would we do that? It was well, you'll get press. And I just remember being no, we're not going to do that. Come on. And just seeing the gimmick of this in this this giant vat, just for the sake of content and for AI and do we want that with our matzo ball soup? This precious piece of Yiddish deli culture, and we need AI involved. And I'm not an AI hater, but it was just more the why of it. I don't mean to be a hater. It was more just this sucks. I don't know. I just didn't like it.
No, this is rant worthy. It's just here we are preparing this thing. People are writing us questions. Aaron's literally doing anything he can to make a beautiful bowl of fucking matzo ball soup. And now someone's just I don't know, let's just make the world's largest bowl of it because of Guinness World Records and AI. There's something about that just is no, just do something else with your time. Why are you doing this?
Well, and it was I feel so much of and we've been in this world of Jewish food together for a long time. Aaron, you've been in it as long as us. And it's just seeing the gimmicks that social media content have churned out. Everyone needs to have a new take on something. Every year there's a new thing in a latke, And just seeing that gimmick for the sake of gimmick, not even for okay, maybe it was for a talking point. Maybe it was just to explore flavors in a creative way. This was just for the pure outrageousness of it. And
I'd like to see if they could have made the world's largest matzo ball and still keep a good texture and not have it explode.
That's what I thought
that
you were
would have
going
been
to say.
A challenge.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
With technique, and be look at it, slice it through, it's perfect, doesn't explode. No.
I just want to see the vat that was made in, the giant matzo ball. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm still trying to get to the bottom of what really annoyed me about it, but it just like, you know what? I looked at this and I said, this isn't the future of Jewish food. Like, I don't want this to be.
I appreciate that because we've been on many a panel discussion where it is, what's the future of Jewish food? I'm like, I don't know, man. But it's not this. It's not the world's largest matzoh ball soup. All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for being here today. This is so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of this.
It's been awesome.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to Meet Me at the Deli. Please send us your questions. You can send us an email to podcast@gefilteria.com, or you can DM us at our Gefilteria Instagram, or use the form in this episode description. This show was produced by Felicia Reich, who is, it's true, from Florida.
Thank you to Heeb Media, an independent media nonprofit producing original web series, podcasts, and live events that showcase the best of today's subversive Jewish culture. Check out their membership if you want to support independent Jewish media now. And tell people about the show. It's the best way for us to grow, and share the clips that are up at the Heeb Media and Gefilteria Instagrams.
So everybody, take our answers out into your life and bring us back the leftovers.
This has been a Heeb Media podcast.